Hello guys, this is Andrei, a certified translator and a real estate concierge, and this is the first August release about the recent headlines. A lot of things happened since we saw each other last time. Thank you very much for staying with the channel and for the channel support. The donation links are underneath the video in the video description. And let's see what happened in the last couple of weeks. A traditional remark, this is not really a media release, I am no journalist, and the whole thing that I am giving to you is very much biased and goes through my understanding of the world, and my world picture is a little bit distorted. So let's see what happens in Belarus, and this may help you to plan something for Belarus or plan nothing for Belarus this year. I'm in the middle of literally Oktyabrskaya Street, the place you may know in Minsk for nightlife or partying. It's Sunday morning, so the section I'm in is blocked, so I have a slight hope that the tram won't be arriving here and running me over in the next couple of hours. The trouble and the sound from the side for you, maybe the partying guys in the back there that are just finishing their Friday night. Never mind them. First things first, and let's discuss the travel. Travel to Belarus is open again for the last couple of months. There's been no self-isolation, there's no PCR required, there's nothing. Just like in the pre-COVID times, you can simply get a ticket and either fly in here, though the flight options are limited, or take a bus. There are no trains operating between Western destinations and Belarus, and travel down here and enjoy the place. As you may know, there is a visa-free mode through Minsk National Airport that allows you to spend 30 days in the city of Minsk and across the whole of Belarus, providing you fly in and fly out of Minsk National Airport. This is a bit problematic these days because most of the flights come via Turkey. There's also layovers via Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, via Russia as well. It won't work for you very well, I guess, because that requires having Russian visa. So the tickets are pricey. Another way of seeing a bit of Belarus is Western visa-free mode. It includes Brest and Grodno regions almost completely. You have to get some paperwork to be eligible, and I believe the visa-free mode there lasts for 15 days. So you'll take a bus there and your papers and go through and see the things in the West that you need. It doesn't allow you to go to Minsk or depart from Minsk. You have to leave through the same Western border, but for some people that's just enough. And last but not least, many people from the so-called unfriendly countries that impose sanctions on Belarus and Russia, like Canada, US and UK and such like, are thinking, oh, we can't travel there, we'll be shot at the border, searched, whatever. Nobody cares, guys. Americans mostly come here because they tend to go off the beaten track. And we are an off-the-beaten-track destination, and there's nothing ill happening to them either crossing the border in here or leaving. Maybe there'll be extra questions about too many Ukrainian stamps if somebody had business there in Kiev or wherever, and that's just about it. The very same Americans that passed by recently, Americans and Australians, confirmed that cards normally work in some 70% of places, cafes, shops and other establishments that charge cards. Would normally accept their cards unless they have card readers from sanctioned banks that disallow the transaction to go through. For this case, you have to have a few $100s in cash, and there's again nothing too bad about carrying cash on your person, in your pockets, and small bills. That's just a normal part of the life here. And right now I have a couple of rubles here and a couple of dollars, and it's Sunday morning. I don't have any thieves lining up to make me uncomfortable over here. Just the cars that are passing by and ruining the sound recording. One of the issues for the travelers now is accommodation, because Russians are on tour and accommodation is scarce. On top of that, major websites for booking are down pretty much, and the accommodation providers have gone back to their regular 1990s business modes. No website, they send you a heap of pictures of a flat. It doesn't really fit the reality of the flat, and that's how you book, more or less. I recommend to go through Google Maps and see the ratings, because a lot of places are marked as apartments, royal, luxury, blah blah blah. You'll see the ratings, recent ones too, and more or less you'll know where the places are. Note that the address you're booking is not necessarily the address where you'll be landing, where you'll be staying, because a lot of places basically don't exist anymore, and business providers are keeping them as a bait. So you are booking this place, and then out of a sudden on your landing day, oh sorry, this place extended, we will offer you this nicer equivalent over here. Many of them don't speak good English, but somehow people are communicating. The Viber, Telegram and WhatsApp messengers are pretty much functional, so the providers are reachable and people just book them and check in. They're much cheaper than hotel alternatives. It seems the new version of COVID is released this September, and there are no lockdowns, there are no self-isolations for now here in Belarus. They're just talking about reintroducing masks again, and not just as a mandatory thing. It's more like for your own protection's sake, voluntary thing which you may use in public transport or something like this. Nothing like a nationwide vaccination is rumored yet or announced, and nothing like this is possible, at least from the financial point of view. And nothing like school vaccinations that are enforced are in the planning here in Belarus, from what I know. Of course, we're in the country where things happened yesterday, and this may be something for you to consider, but generally this is not on the agenda, let's say. A quick word on the sanctions against Russia. It seems like the Western politicians are a little bit troubled with finding green alternatives to the Russian gas, so by and by a few things here and a few things here are kind of allowed, turning a blind eye on the whole mathematics of helping Ukraine with $1 billion or 1 billion euro, it's about one same thing now. They're also buying 30 times as much in gas and oil from Russia. I don't really see how that works, but on top of that, they also sanction some top people of the Russian regime that are loyal, helpful, blah, 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 including the Putin's rumored girlfriend, the ex-Olympics gymnastics girl, and a few other oligarchs and billionaires. Their yachts have been nicked, their properties have been confiscated. I don't think there was any court hearing or anything. That just happened. Guys, I'm against sanctions, but I don't really see how that shit is supposed to affect the whole big project and make people sour so much that they topple Putin or whatever this is expected to achieve. Sounds kind of ridiculous. Speaking of new points of tension, Taiwan and China, Serbia and Kosovo, and Israel and Iran are rumored to be the next hotspots around the globe. And if you tell me in the comments about the likelihood of China-Taiwan becoming more escalated, basically turning into war, I'll be very grateful. If you have some inside knowledge, if you're in the area, that would be interesting to know about this. And it seems like the Chinese are just looking at what's happening in Russia or with Russia and Ukraine to see if they can kickstart their own thing and make Taiwan a part of the great country. If a country exists as a self-sufficient entity, I'm just for its independence and people. The Taiwanese guys, if they believe that's their own place, I guess they have every right to fight for it. Wishing them luck. I'm glad my predictions about the fast drop of the economy in February didn't really work out. It takes more than 5 weeks for such a non-complicated economy to slow down, but it is slowing down. Salaries are dropping in most of the areas in Belarus. And the National Bank has stopped publishing some statistics about gold bars. I understand it's a very complicated thing, and the gold reserves of the country can be measured differently, but this is something what happened on top of not publishing the figures about how many pensioners we have anymore and a few other things, which kind of make an average taxpayer wonder at least what the hell is going on and how bad it's going to be. So far, people are going down their everyday itinerary. Even the street cleaners here are very dedicated to their job and ask me, what am I filming? Is it something extremist and wrong and blah, blah, blah? But, well, everything is going down the plan. Factories seem to be functioning, workers are going to their shifts, and things are being produced, mostly now selling to Russia and Eastern markets rather than the Western. However, the retargeting of the production lines and supplies apparently brings about certain losses that we may or may not feel in the nearest future. In the same way, potash export and potash used for fertilizers mostly has been exported from Belarus through the last decades, making a certain share of GDP. It's dropped over the last 6 months by 50% compared to the first 6 months of 2021. Sanctions by the Baltic countries, ban for transit and other things have lost the country some money, and that's not working very well for the government spendings over here. Thank God I'm no expert in economy, so I really won't trouble you by my judgments about what's going to happen next and in a couple of months. But apparently by the end of the year, both sides here and in the West will feel very sour about what's going on. And some producers in the West are already not feeling very well about the lack of gas supplies. Never mind that, some Belarusian producers, foodstuffs producers, have switched to plastic bottles and plastic packaging because the TetraPack packaging is missing from the country. The company is gone, and apparently it's one of the 3 top world's producers for that kind of packing. And Belarusian effort to replicate TetraPack failed miserably some 5 years ago. Somehow they tried to kickstart the thing, but the factories were reluctant to cooperate with them. They would change the design of their package even without telling the factory. They are now using a different line, and this didn't really help to start this new production. Apparently vital in the current circumstances. Speaking of imports replacement, apparently it's going to be tough because a lot of production lines were supplied from Italy or Germany down here, and a lot of spare parts supplies were coming from Europe to keep the whole thing going. I was always amazed to hear about something not from Belarus being employed here, and here, although in the geography book at school you would always hear about machine building, equipment production, blah, 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 in this and this and this cities. And apparently it's not working very well. A recent accident in St. Petersburg involved one of the locally made buses, 2019 made bus that burned in the street and burned completely, which was the 3rd case in a row that happened in Russia recently, and this apparently speaks against the increasing, or is an evidence of decreasing quality of the local production as the sanctions are hitting the country. I don't have a very good circle of friends in the industries, and I can't really tell you that this and this and this industry is going to be affected soon, but apparently car making in Russia that has stopped because a lot of brands have pulled out is affecting the sales here in Belarus. Dealerships have sold 50% less cars than last year so far within the 6 months period. And the top selling brands are no longer Renault, they are the Chinese Geely that has end assembly over here north of Minsk, Gaz, the Russian Gazelle truck and bus makers, that's commercial vehicles, and the third was Kia, which is the Koreans, as you know. Renault is no longer a popular thing because the warehouses have run dry and the installments that they offered are obviously not available anymore. So people who had an opportunity to renew the car did it. Buying a second-hand car right now is a bit of a challenge. It's really a huge challenge. From my personal experience, I've driven hundreds and hundreds of kilometers to see rotten cars that the guys just failed to photograph at the right angle, and you waste all the time, the day, and the expertise of the mechanic that comes along, because it's obviously not a good idea to buy a car just at a glance. That was a challenge. I think I got a car. My charming minibus actually went to Russia. And that's about it. Buying a car right now is quite a thing. And it is my understanding that the residents of the high technology park, for instance EPAM systems, larger companies and smaller companies continue relocating from Belarus. EPAM has spent some $30 million on relocating people and allocated $11 million to help the relatives of the Ukrainian employees. So the IT sector is moving, and the tax yield from the last 6 months apparently is lower than the year before, so it's dropping. So speaking of the economy slowdown, we may assume it's happening, but it's not as rapid as somewhere else. Let's say it's not too bad because most of the Belarusian economy was Russia oriented. Most of our exports went to Russia and a lot of supplies came from Russia, although there's more coming because, for instance, the mining trucks company Belaz is now not using American engines anymore. they're getting them supplied from Russia, and it's really hard to tell how effective the end product is going to be. Although, like we mentioned, many figures are becoming secret. The unemployment is increasing by and by. Traditionally, unemployment rate here was one of the lowest in the world because the way it was calculated was kind of orthodox. Only people who got registered with the labor exchange as unemployed and got some $10 a month for unemployment allowance versus against some odd jobs that they had to take up once a week. We got 0.5% unemployed. Now the industries are mostly firing people, and there's some 60,000 difference between those fired and hired. They hire less now, except for some sectors like education, and schooling year is starting from the 1st of September, and a few others. Otherwise, the personnel is being cut by and by. And to conclude this video, a couple of fun headlines from the last week. A Belarusian truck driver got arrested with 1.9 million euro worth of contraband. Cigarettes are still popular in Lithuania, but it seems like Lithuanian authorities have launched a more massive crackdown on this flow, and the guy is going to prison basically. The Prime Minister of Belarus has announced that Belarus has a good supply of sugar. We have normal beet sugar here, and the recent rumor in one of the regions about the doubling price has created enormous queues of people trying to grab it at the old price. The Prime Minister has stated that we have a good supply of it and there's no reason to create a pile in your house, and generally the thing is not the healthiest thing to consume. I guess I could agree with the latter point, but normally in Belarus when some top shot makes an announcement like, oh guys, there's going to be enough of sugar, normally the supply of this item is running really dry quite soon. So people listen to that and do the opposite from what the government advises. And last but not least, a local court has concluded that a sticker pack in one of the messengers that was playing around our president's quotations from 2020. I won't be quoting those because I basically don't want to go to jail. The sticker pack is basically of extremist nature. It's banned, and apparently using these stickers in the messengers brings about criminal responsibility. So this is little 1984 that we're going into, and it's a big debate on which side of the Iron Curtain you wish to be in the current season. This was Andrei from Minsk. Thank you very much for watching. Consider helping the channel if you have some 10, 20 bucks. The links are down below. You can become regular patron of the channel and subscribe with Patreon, or just a one-time donation that works normally with PayPal or sometimes just cards. Thank you for your feedback. Any comments underneath the video are very welcome. Any questions, technical questions, are more welcome through direct messengers. My contacts are under the video as well. Hopefully I'll see you in Minsk someday. The best time to travel here is the next 3 months, up till October somewhere. Cheers from Minsk, and see you later.